Hi everyone, I'm Paola of Paola Ponce Nails, located here in Los Angeles, California, a licensed manicurist and also a certified Japanese gel nail instructor. Today's lesson is going to consist of blocking out patterns with holo pigment, or as I like to call it, holo blocking. So let's get started. You will need, obviously, your holo powder, a sponge to apply the powder with, or an eyeshadow sponge or a silicone brush. You'll need non-wipe top coat and a sealant. Okay, so if you're working on a real client, you would want to apply your base, 2 coats of color, or if you're working with highly pigmented product, as I like to work so I can save time, I've applied 1 coat of highly pigmented black onto this nail, just 1, and now I'm ready to apply and move on to my nail art much faster. I'm going to use a non-wipe top coat, and I'm going to cure this non-wipe top coat for the recommended time of 30 seconds. Apply it thin and evenly, making sure that you haven't catched any lint in the air or any other kind of particles that are already in the air. Make sure it's smooth. Pop it in the lamp for 30 seconds, not about 30 seconds, but for 30 seconds. You'll want to get your applicator ready. In this case, I'm going to use a makeup sponge. You also want to get your pigment ready. In this case, I'm going to show you the technique with holo powder, hence our holo blocking nails. And very, very important also is to have your tape ready. Striping tape. We're going to use striping tape to block out patterns in the nail. You've seen this technique in probably one of our former videos, the abstract blocking, which we use with transfer foils. We use the striping tape, and to make sure that your chrome or your pigments don't chip, do check out our troubleshooting chrome nails video. Alright, so my non-wipe top coat has cured and it's ready to be worked on with the nail art. I'm going to use my striping tape to block out patterns in the nail, sort of like we did in our abstract blocking video. Feel free to check that out. And again, I like to work zigzag patterns. You do whichever patterns you like, linear, triangular, zigzag, or if you have fun decals you want to place in now, then by all means. You just want to block out areas of the nail that you don't want product to adhere to. And personally, I like to do it with tape because it creates crisp, perfect lines. And as much as I like linear art, I personally don't like to draw lines because my OCD just gets in the way of it, and I cannot stand to see crooked lines and anything like that. So I don't even try. I try to get away with everything with striping tape. So once I got familiar with this technique, I took it home and I used it for almost every other client. All right, so now I placed my striping tape wherever I wanted to block out my pattern. I'm using black on black. Sorry, you're not really able to see that, but you do see the striping tape sticking out here. Now, very, very important, if you have a dust vacuum machine like the Valentino, that's the flush mount to your table, I really recommend using it because this pigment is so fine that really gravity is not able to push it down or have it fall on its own. It's so fine that it just comes into the air, and on my last lesson I could literally see it everywhere. So do recommend to turn that on. It doesn't have to be really high, just low enough for it to catch it, especially if you're working right over it. You don't need to turn it all the way up. It will pull it in. Okay, you'll take your applicator of choice. I'm using a makeup sponge here, And I'm gonna take just a tiny bit amount. You can pour it onto the cap if you'd like. This is a relatively new sponge, so I'm not contaminating it here. And I wanna work over my vacuum so that it does suck any of the pigment that comes loose. And first thing you wanna do is push down, so that you push down on your tape and make sure that your tape doesn't come up so that you don't lose the effect. The effect here is crisp lines. And now you can see the tape coming, the color of the tape coming through. And when you've coated the entire nail with your holo pigment, you now want to perhaps take another part of the sponge and apply pressure and pull your pigment down. That way you will get the strongest, most iridescent application and just very, very dynamic amount of colors here. So there you have it. Your final step for this will be, well, not really final, but coming close to it, will be to remove the striping tape gently. And actually, if you really want to know a tip here so that you don't contaminate or ruin the crispness of the lines, is to again take your eyeshadow brush or any other dusting brush that you have there for glitters. Make sure you're working over the dust section machine of your choice and brush that pigment out of the way so that when you do apply your sealer, your base coat next, you don't drag loose pigment onto the crisp lines and therefore ruin your beautiful cool effect. All right, once you've done that, you'll go ahead and pull these off. My nails are long, so I can kind of use my nails, but I'm gonna do the right thing and use my tweezers. And you'll see how beautiful and crisp your lines are. Now the black that is coming up, or those crisp black lines, are not from the tape. They are from the base that you apply. So by all means, have fun and apply dark, vibrant colors, highly pigmented colors underneath to create a beautiful undertone. And again, my recommendation is to reference our past video on troubleshooting chrome nails so that you can also master doing nail art with pigments. It's titled chrome, but this is also like a holographic chrome. It's the same sort of pigment. You'll apply all of the principles taught there onto this advanced technique here. So gently remove your tapes to see how crisp those lines are. And just like with your chrome nails, we call it a troubleshooting video because most people have problem with chipping. Remember, the secret component or the secret sauce is to apply non-acid bonder, an adhesion agent, to the tip of the nail of the loose pigment, and then also to lift any loose product from off of the nail by pulling up the brush right on the tip of the nail. If you want to wipe that, go ahead and do that so you don't contaminate your product. And now you always want to kind of just give your chrome pigment a little bit of a cure. Even though we didn't put it on a tacky layer, it still will continue to cure and pull some of the product into the coat, even if when we use non-wipe top coat, it's totally fine. So just a short cure. We'll bring that out, and I always recommend to seal your chrome application with at least the base coat. In this case, I'm going to use a semi-hard sculpting or building gel, and semi-hard allows me to go very thin, so I'm not concerned about encapsulating it with a builder gel because it's going to create a thickness to the nail. Not at all. Semi-hard soak up builder gel goes on very thin, and a little goes a long way. So again, because I don't like to mix too many products when I'm working, I'm just going to stick to my leaf gel and use that to seal this. And when I seal this, unlike when you do glass paper or other foils or other medium, you don't need to buff or whip into shape with files and buffers. Okay, so you're just gonna go over this, and I would say go a little bit generous so that you don't apply too much pressure and then pull down the pigment. So grab a generous amount of product and then pull it down, down, down and down. No more than once or twice. Very minimal product apply, very minimal amount of strokes apply, so that we don't pull the pigment into the crisp lines that we created. Now you'll notice I have a little tiny spot there. That's probably because our tape wasn't pushed down all the way. It doesn't happen too often, but this is a curvier nail, and it could be that our tape just did not adhere onto the body of the nail. So don't be discouraged. It does not happen often. Most of the times, even when you're rushing, all 10 of your clients' fingernails will be crisp with lines and this design and pattern, so you don't have to worry about messing it up. Honestly, it's really hard to mess it up, and unless you're completely slothful and you don't, take diligent care to press down the tape, then the pigment will seep underneath the tape, especially when you're rubbing it down. So remember, after you've cured the color, you'll want to apply non-white top coat. Then you are going to apply your striping tape. Then you are going to grab your applicator of choice onto your pigment, press that onto the nail, pull that down, and dust that off with an eyeshadow brush or any other brush that you've decided to use as a dust brush. I like to use the eyeshadow brushes. I feel like they're very gentle and quite flexible, so that they're not aggressively removing product off of the nail. So once you've brushed it down, you will apply your non-acid bonder or adhesion agent to the tip, and then you'll also use the tip of the brush to pull product from off the tip of the nail. You'll cure that so that your holo pigment continues to adhere to the non-white top coat, and sure, your adhesion agent can also all bond together under the light. Why not, right? Bring that out. You will apply a sealant or a base coat of your choice. Doesn't have to be hard gel, anything thick. You can use just any soak off sealer is perfect. Just make sure that you're thoroughly coming through. I don't necessarily recommend going over the tip, so as long as you curve your brush downward as you're applying it. Why? Because sometimes you end up with like a lip or an extra kind of indentation on the tip that's just not really pretty. So just pulling it down in a concave kind of downward motion is perfect. After you've done that, you don't need to buff, you don't need to file. You just go right into your top coat of choice. It doesn't have to be the non-white. You can use any top coat that you like, that you think gives you the best shine, so that you indeed end up with a very nice, reflective, crisp, holo blocked nail. And that is our tutorial on holo blocking nails. If you liked our video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, leave those in the comment sections. I'll be more than glad to answer them. And as always, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We'll see you on our next video.